walk-off
returner.
guy. All right.
Yeah.
While we still try and work our way to Mike Gill, we see his smiling face on there and the way that he's got the camera picture.
Syracuse, the
he
orange.
doesn't have to do a T-shirt reveal today.
Yeah.
It's right there, front and center. He is orange. He is Mike Gill. You got your computer up and running, buddy?
Major internet problems. I had to go to the phone today. I hope it sounds okay. But yeah, my laptop is not cooperating today.
What did you have any storms down there? Is it hardware related or storm related internet?
You know what? I'm not sure. It looks a little overcasty out, but I mean, I have 2 different internet services in here, and I keep switching back and forth, and neither one of them are holding me in there. So my phone seems to be, I don't know, is it okay?
Yeah, your picture seems fine. You sound fine, and we know you're a Syracuse guy now because you got the T-shirt on. Yeah, sometimes weather redirects your life. It did for McMullen yesterday. I had to go running over to South Philadelphia because they moved the practice up to 1:30 to try and dodge storms that may or may not have come. I wasn't in South Philly. John was, but I don't know that they even needed to do it. But it was hot, as were the Eagles yesterday. Mike Gill, after the first practice, which the Eagles essentially lost. Again, I wasn't there, but that's what most everybody said. I think John was more forgiving to the Eagles than most, that he called it as close as it was. A couple others said, yeah, unquestioned, the Browns won. Well, even less question was the amount that the Eagles won by yesterday. Dominating fashion. How good a sign is that they go out, like maybe don't play a great first quarter, when they decide, okay, now we got to kick it into gear. They didn't kick their tails yesterday. How does that portend going into this upcoming season?
Well, and I know the first day people thought that it was the offense that struggled, that the defense still held up its end of the bargain against the Browns for the most part. And then yesterday, the offense, and even Nick Sirianni admitted that his offense did not, or Brian Johnson's offense didn't have the day they had hoped. It sounded like yesterday that things were clicking better. I think one of the things you take away, though, is how important these offensive linemen are. I mean, I talked about this yesterday on my show, Jody. We take for granted sometimes a guy like Isaac Seumalo. He's not a Pro Bowler, but you just assume the next guy is going to jump in there and be as good, if not better, than Seumalo was because, well, he's not a Pro Bowler. Nobody cares about him. Like, fans sometimes are so fixated on the accolades and the awards, but Seumalo is a pretty big hole that needs to be replaced. And I don't know, John, you may have seen more. I was told by some people that Juergens did not have a great day. And then obviously you lose Dickerson and you struggle with Stu Opeta playing in that spot. So I think, if anything, how important it is it shows how important the Eagles' offensive line. And I think last night, Jody, I'm sure you watched the Hard Knocks, where Robert Saleh said you can have a Hall of Fame quarterback, 2 $10 million dollar receivers, the rookie of the year, a deep running back room. But if the big boys don't do their job, it don't matter. So the Eagles can have all the talent in the world, but their bread and butter, I think what we find out is the most important is across that line. And Mailata got whipped on Monday. He seemed to be better yesterday. You lose 2 guards. Yeah, that's the eye-opening thing about how quick a season can get derailed by guys that you just take for granted a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Howie says it all the time when people get mad at him. You know, you go back to when they drafted Cam Juergens and everybody said, go get Nakobe, go get Nakobe. And he's like, flat out said, we're always going to take the offensive lineman if it's even, or defensive lineman. And they ended up getting Nakobe anyway in the 3rd round. But
by the way, I was one of those people who was kind of scratching my head at why are you taking a backups, the heir apparent center in the 2nd round? And my reasoning really was, look, centers are guys that you can find later on in the draft. I thought that was an extremely high value if he's going to be a player that you are hoping takes over for somebody.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, the 2 teams I always look at are Seattle with Russell Wilson in his prime. And they were able to win the 1 Super Bowl. Should have won 2, but they never had a good offensive line. I always think what that team could have been. And then Minnesota. We said all these skill position players they have. always have a terrible offensive line. And, you know, anybody watch quarterback, talking about Hard Knocks, anybody watch this quarterback on Netflix, Kirk Cousins got beat to shreds last year because they can't block anybody. Yeah, if you can't block anybody, you can't play offense. It's just, and the Eagles seem to understand that better than most teams. But you're right, Mike. That's a concern, the depth on the offensive line. Not only Isaac, but also Andre Dillard. They had tremendous depth. Now, Isaac was a starter, but that makes Cam Jurgens a depth beast. Now we're talking about, what if Kelsey gets hurt? He got banged up. Cam Jurgens got to move the center, you know, but backup center. You mentioned Suo Pettit coming in at left guard. That does not look good. And I would argue Isaac Seumalo should have been a Pro Bowl player. He was a Pro Bowl alternate last year. Should have been the Pro Bowler. Landon should have been the alternate. Now, Landon has the higher upside, but I think Isaac, he might have been the most underrated player on this team last year. Was a really, really good player. I'm concerned about the depth on the offensive line.
And I don't want to be the gloom and doomer here, but
no, you bring up a good point, though.
But keep in mind how healthy this team was last year. I mean, at some point, you got to pay the tab on that, right? I mean, how many times do you make it through multiple seasons without having a couple of key moments in your season where you have to persevere and try to use your depth? I mean, and I look at a couple areas on this team, offensive line being one. Mailata's missed a handful of games here and there. Johnson has been relatively healthy after having some, but he's missed a few. Kelsey has made it through.
Mike, guys, go back to Doug Peterson's last season. Nick Sirianni, by the way, to Nick Sirianni's credit, he points this out all the time. Usually when you're a first-time head coach, Shane Steichen, unfortunately this year in Indianapolis, Jonathan Gannon in Arizona, usually you come in and you got a mess on the offensive and defensive lines. Nick came in, had a great offensive line, just all got hurt in Doug's last year, had a great defensive line. And
which was similar to Andy's last year as well. I mean, Andy had all the injuries. Chip Kelly came in, and the line was healthy again. And even Chip was the benefit of the offensive line returning to full health. You remember Andy's last season, I think they had 6 guys on that offensive line get hurt. And they were rotating guys in and out every single week. Kelsey got hurt. He missed a bunch of games at the end. That was like the 2012 season. But the other area would be at corner. I know everybody loves what Josh Job's doing, and Eli Ricks had an interception return for a touchdown. But your 2 corners played 17 games last year, and those guys are you wonder. Okay, and I'm not saying season-ending stuff, guys, but you might have to say, hey, guy's got an ankle, he's got a hammy, or he's got a groin or something for a couple of weeks throughout the course of the season.
Here's the key for me. And John and I were just talking about it. Want to get your take on it too. The size defense as compared to Gannon's defense. We all believe it's going to be similar, probably very similar. It will not be exactly the same. That the different person in charge is going to do it differently. And I had a chance to interview Desai on WIP last week, and he wasn't really too giving on facts or figures, and he didn't go in depth much with what his defense.
Did he give you a palpable, Jody? Did he give you a palpable?
Didn't go palpable on us. But we're gonna have to wait and see for ourselves if the defense is very Gannon-like, it's Sirianni-like. Well, those corners don't get up and take any hits. They're not asked to come up and play the run and be aggressive and go mano a mano, face to face with a guy. I think that lends itself to the fact that they didn't get hurt much because they're not asked to be physical corners, and I don't think they're going to be asked to be physical corners this year either.
That's true, and I think that happens. We talk about this a lot on my show. Is and they say the guy's injury prone. Are you injury prone, or do you just have some freak things happen? Like, for instance, a guy who's injury prone to me is soft tissue guy who doesn't need to be physical. He doesn't need to hit anybody, and he can get hurt just because He pulls a hamstring, he pulls a groin. Those type of guys are the guys that you worry about. And then I guess with Bradbury and Slay, they don't have to be physical to get those injuries playing the position they play, coupled with where they are on the calendar. And that's where you wonder at what point do their legs start to get a little tired if they're playing every single snap of every single game. Because the Eagles just don't have trusting depth there. How many times I think we may have talked about it last year here, guys, where the Eagles would have pretty big leads and you'd be like, they didn't play anybody. They didn't take anybody out of the game.
I'm still ticked off about Nakobe Dean's numbers of snaps last year. Shame on both Gannon and the linebacker.
Yeah, but for what it's worth, I mean, like if you have good corners, good outside corners, that's not a rotational position. Like nobody rotates cornerbacks.
Not rotating, just like, hey, we're up comfortably. That's the last 5 minutes of this game, or yeah, I can see what you're saying, John. But just more, hey, we've got a pretty good grasp on this game. We're gonna get some guys out there.
You know what though? In the modern NFL, and I'm gonna play devil's advocate for Nick because he said that. What is out of reach? Because man, you see it every week in this league. Teams come back from 2 touchdowns down to fourth quarter. You were down 2 touchdowns 10 years ago. Forget about 20, 30. It's over. Game's over. Not now. Man, people are going up and down the field and left and right. I mean, I agree. They should have gotten, especially at linebacker, they should have gotten Nakobe some more snaps because they knew the long-term plan as well. And I think there was opportunity. But Slay and Bradbury last year, I don't think Zach McPherson was an outside corner.
Right. Did we know Josh Jobe was going to be pushing for a job? Half of the guys that are in the mix now weren't even here. They weren't Eagles yet. They were on other teams. Nakobe was a 3rd-round pick that you knew there was a good chance he's going to be your starting middle linebacker this upcoming season. The linebacker choices to get into the game and the outside corner guys, 2 completely different things.
Yeah, and they have more depth now. But even so, Josh Jobe's having a great summer. Calais Ringo's got tremendous potential, but I think it's going to take a while. And now they're sort of cross-training Zach back outside as well as inside. But boy, if those guys are healthy, they're going to play. That's not a rotational position. And if it is, it means you don't have corners. And that's where they're like, oh, this guy stinks. Let's try this guy. But when you have 2 arguably top 10 corners, if they're healthy, they're going. But to your injury point, Mike, which is a good one, the best description of that is the running backs. DeAndre Swift, you can argue, is injury prone. He's missed 4 games, 3 consecutive years. Rashad Penny, broken fibula, torn ACL. That's
freak.
Yeah. Dallas Goedert said when he got hurt, 300-pound guy falls on your shoulder the right way. What sports science is going to prevent that? Maybe prevent soft tissue stuff.
Well, and the Penny thing's interesting too, and I don't know where he factors into all this after watching Gainwell not play on Saturday night, and then Gainwell get a majority of the touches the last couple of days. I would imagine Gainwell's not going to play tomorrow night now, so I don't know what that does for Penny. But obviously he had come out and said he thought, he was carrying too much weight in Seattle as well, and that could have been a problem for him. So, I mean, that's the one thing, though, to go back full circle is the team was ridiculously healthy last year. I mean, and that would be one thing you're looking at and saying, at what point does that start to catch up to you? Because the team has had a couple, the Peterson year, the Andy Reid year that I referenced, that was, and even to some extent, the Andy Reid year after they went to the Super Bowl. Now, I know the TO thing was a part of that, but that team was losing guys left and right, people getting hurt constantly, where you just have one of those years where you have high expectations and you're just like, what are we going to do? Everybody just keeps dropping like flies. You hope that doesn't happen here because I think we're having a conversation about depth here, and I think we're seeing that the depth could be an issue in some of these key spots.
All right, Mike, I want to get your take. This is a crystal ball over the course of the entire year type question. Because I went on a buddy's show in Boston last night, a sports gambling show, in reference to the Eagles and what they're going to do, both record wise and stat compiling and the like. And one of the ones I took a pretty strong stand on, and I thought about it afterwards. I said, yeah, maybe you shouldn't have gone there. Jalen Hurts rushing yards. Last year, he rushed for 760 yards. This year, the over-under is 725. So it's less than what he did last year. But there's the conversation about, well, yeah, but now you can't afford to lose him because not only are you losing your quarterback, you got all that dead money on your salary cap sitting on the sidelines because Jalen got hurt running the football. They don't have Miles Sanders, who was the go-to back next year, but they've got all these different options. Nick Sirianni on the record said, why would I take away his superpower, which is in part him making plays with his legs? How much do you think Jalen Hurts is going to run over the course of the 17 games, Mike?
I was thinking about this because I saw a lot of gambling over-under stuff for the receivers and Jalen as well. And I thought it was an interesting, all the numbers for all these guys. A.J. Brown, the numbers for him, they're all predicting to be down. Devonta Smith, his numbers are all pretty much across the board predicted to be down as well. But I think Hurts will probably be under the rushing number. I know they will say, well, why would you do it? And I don't disagree with them. I'm not saying that that's not going to happen, but I think as Jalen gets older, and I know he's a young man still.
25. But man, he's so friggin' old at 25. My God.
Well, you know what?
Should he use a walker when he gets out there onto the field this year?
He might have a walker in his brain because he is an old man, an old soul, that Jalen Hurts. And I think he is smart enough to understand that he has enough weaponry around him and that he can use them. And then if he gets to a point in the season where, hey, I relied on these guys and they're not helping me out, I will have to take matters into my own hand. But I think that will probably mean that he will be a little bit more, I don't want to say cautious, but just understanding that he does have guys that can probably, take the load off of him a little bit. So I would take the under on that number. What was it, 725?
725, and he rushed for 760 last year. And I said over, and then
so even if he's a little trepidatious, just a little bit, that's only 40 yards we're talking about that would be less.
Yeah. I those numbers to me are all about health. I mean, if you tell me if he's healthy.
He missed 2 games last year.
Yeah, if he's healthy, I mean, he's going over. There's no question. If he's missing 2 games, he's probably going under. If he's missing 3, he's certainly going under. But I don't think it's going to change much as far as how the Eagles play. And if anything, in training camp, they've been so successful with the quarterback draws, especially in the red zone. I don't think they're going away until somebody proves they can stop it. And I don't know if people are going to be able to stop it. So I expect a similar playing style, and the over-under will come down to how many games does he miss. If he doesn't miss a game and he finally plays every single start, he's going over. I don't think there's any doubt. And by the way, everybody else is going to have big numbers. AJ's going to have big numbers. Devontae, Dallas Goedert. It's a very good offense, very talented offense.
Do you think that I don't know, that if they keep, we're probably going to keep 4 running backs, I would imagine, right? Somebody's going to be the odd man out. If 3 of them are active on game day, are they all in the game plan? Because it doesn't seem that, like last year you had Miles, who was kind of the guy, and then the other 2 just kind of rotated in sparingly.
Well, that's my problem. That's my problem with Penny. It's like, in theory, you're right, Mike. So you have 3. Swift and Gainwell are going to be involved, or Gainwell and Swift, whoever you want to say. They're going to be game plan 4. They're going to be the main backs. And then if you want Boston in there as the kick returner, why are you keeping Rashad Penny to be inactive? I don't know. Are they going to keep Bohr active? I guess you can let somebody else return kicks and make Boston Scott inactive because, as Jody correctly points out, I don't think kick returns are going to be nearly as important, and they weren't really that important to begin with. And now it's going to get worse. So kind of depends. But if Rashad Penny's not going to be the 20-20 guy, and just the traffic guy, so to speak, I don't see why you keep him.
Yeah, and I guess you envision
Brooks Kennedy.
No, Trey Sermon.
Has Trey Sermon wowed you so far?
No, he hasn't made a play. I haven't seen the guy make a play in my life.
That's kind of my point. So
they seem that.
Would they cut down to just 3 backs? That's the question. I think that's the actual big question.
Well,
will they carry just 3?
I mean, on game day.
Game day. What I was kind of like, if let's say, Penny is on the game day roster, you would envision him as a guy who, hey, you're not going to play much the first 3 quarters, but if we have a lead, you're the guy who we're going to hand the ball to kind of run the clock out in the 4 minutes there. And that's basically, you get 7-8 carries, run the clock out. You get 6 yards a pop. That's what your average yards per carry has been the last 2 seasons, and that's your role.
Yeah. Hey, they could dress 4 running backs, but do you want to dress 4 running backs? I wouldn't.
Now you're cutting into special teams, because other than Boston returning, who's playing specials out of that group? Nobody. You can't afford
nobody.
Yeah, that's part of the problem. So I don't know how you can dress 4. Well, you can do anything you want, but you're going to be limiting yourself in another area. I think that's fair to say. Slay was in rare form, Mike. Gave Reed Blankenship the milk check. Josh, quarterbacks say milk check, but Reed Blankenship he was one of the best players on the field. And there were a ton of good players on the field between the Eagles, one of the best teams in the NFL. Cleveland has more talent than people realize, starting with Myles Garrett, who just destroyed them on day one, wasn't in team drills. That's part of the reason why the Eagles were so successful, by the way, because Myles wasn't out there. But Cleveland has a lot of big stars as well. And Reed Blankenship was one of the best players on the field. I mean, the NFL just missed on this guy. They missed.
Which happens. I mean, they had a kid a couple of years ago that was here, Poyer. They drafted in the 7th round, and they missed on him. He went to Buffalo, and the kid, voila, he could actually play, believe it or not.
At least he got drafted, though. At least Jordan
7th round,
drafted.
yes. 7th round, yes. Hey, they need it. Last year we're in the same situation. You're saying, can Marcus Epps really be the best safety on your team? And the Eagles said, no, he can't. They went out and made a trade. We'll see if they see what you guys are saying, that Reed Blankenship can be the best safety on the team. As of right now, that's what they're telling us. Will that hold? Do you think that holds? That they'll go into the season saying, you know what, Blankenship has proven that he can lead this unit, and we're okay with it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it holds. He's clearly the best safety on this team. The question is,
No. I'm not disputing that. I'm saying, do they think he can be the best safety on a team? Okay.
I know. Yeah, I don't think they're going out and getting another safety. I don't.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, I got a prediction question for you. I already asked you one. I'm going to ask you another. How many sacks will Jalen Carter get off the edge this year?
Oof, off the edge.
Dropped him outside a couple of times the last few days, which I didn't see coming, to be truthful with you. There's always the possibility of the stunt. Eagles stunt enough. I wouldn't say they stunt a lot, but they never do it. Some teams just stay in your lane and get to the quarterback. The Eagles will play games up front a little bit. How many times will Jalen Carter off the edge get the quarterback with sacks this year?
Oh man, that's an interesting question. I don't know that I would say Carter, I would have around the 9 sack range. 9, not off the edge, not off the edge, not off the edge.
Right, 9
not
total.
off the edge.
Gotcha. Understood.
Right. 9 total. I just think he's going to be a menace up the middle. I've kind of contended for a while. I mean, he's going to be one of those guys that this league is saying 2 to 3 years from now. They got Warren Sapp in the 9th pick there. What are you doing, people? Like, they just absolutely got a guy to blow up teams.
He's unbelievable. He is unbelievable from a physical standpoint. He just blew up Joe Batonio yesterday, who's an all-pro guard.
Well, it's the speed. The speed and explosion he has. The first play, I know you're like, it's the first play. Like, he just whipped that guy. I mean, and that's just shows. And sometimes, we don't know what the mindset is of where these guys are. But if you have success on your first play and you have the talent, you're telling yourself, I did it. All right. And then that kind of springboards the rest of your possible. Now, if you struggle early on, it could take you a while to get the mindset of, I belong here. I think Carter showed himself from the first second he was on that field. So he probably gets 2 to 3 from the outside. But I think Jody, and I liked what they did with Jordan Davis, too. It looked like they were not just exclusively playing him, as a 5-man. He was out there in a lot of those nickel fronts. And I think that they're going to use him in different ways than John Gannon did as well last year, which would push Carter probably to the outside to get a couple of those. But I think he's going to do most of his damage just whipping those guards on the inside.
All right, I'm going to be Mr. Negative here because this front is unbelievable talent-wise. At Mike Gill Show. Last one from me, Mike, 97.3, ESPN South Jersey, the Sports Bash. They have so many, like, I get what you're saying with Jordan Davis. He can do more than play in those 50 fronts. But if Jordan's on the field, then Fletcher Cox isn't, or Jalen Carter isn't. If Derek Barnett's on the field, Josh Sweat isn't. If Nolan Smith's on the field, maybe Hassan Reddick isn't. They have so much talent, but I want Reddick, I want Sweat, I want Carter, I want Cox on the field in big pass rushing situations. That's my nickel front. You can do all this hinky stuff. You want to put the best players in the best positions to succeed. It's great to have that if injuries pop up, but I don't want to mess with Jordan Davis as a pass rusher when I have maybe the most unique interior pass rusher to come in this league since Aaron Donald. He might not be ready. I mean, all that kind of stuff. The Georgia guys tend to need some conditioning work. I've mentioned that before. That might be the case because they don't play a lot down there because they're so deep. It might take him a while to get where he goes, but you get my point. Reddick, probably a better example. Hassan Reddick needs to be on the field in big pass rushing situations. I don't care that you have depth. He needs to be on the field.
And I would imagine that you wouldn't see Hassan Reddick off the field there. I would imagine that the times you would use Jordan Davis in those situations, and just watching a little bit of what you saw Saturday night, is they seem to be a little bit more physical up front. It looked like they had a little bit more press in their corners there. So you might utilize, I don't know if they're going to blitz as much, but the potential of, hey, Jordan Davis out there, that he just takes up so much space from the lineman that we can try to blitz around him and utilize him as almost, I don't want to say a decoy, but as a space guy.
No, that's what he is.
Yeah, right. Who gets some lanes. I don't know what they're going to do with these linebackers, man. That linebacking Thursday night, they usually play Thursday. Saturday night was a tough read. I don't know what you took from that linebacker room on Saturday night, but I don't know that they have a guy there that you're like, this guy's going to be a playmaker. I think that Kobe Dean can be that guy, but we didn't get a chance to see him.
No.
Hopefully. Well, this is a question for John, but Mike, you can hang with us for a second and comment. Nakobe going to play Thursday night? Or is he getting deference? Or I think he kind of needs to be out there. I know you don't want to risk him. I know the overall philosophy is it doesn't matter. You got to protect. He also kind of needs to play, doesn't he? I know I'm getting back in Gannon's case. And what's the linebacker coach that I'm forgetting?
Nick
now?
Rollis.
Rollis, who never put him out there. Shame on him. I think Nakobe needs to play, doesn't he, on Thursday night, John?
I don't think anybody's playing.
Well, no, I would imagine nobody's playing, considering they just played 2 days here. That's a lot of reps that you're going to ask the guy 3 days in a row to go out and play live reps. By the way, in what other town does the departed linebacker coach get a shot taken at him?
Sorry, Nick Rollis, you get what you deserve. Suck it up.
I think Nick Rollis is out in Arizona right now thinking, oh, they're talking about me in Philadelphia on a Wednesday morning. What the heck did I do?
He's the defensive coordinator in Arizona. They probably don't even know who he is at this point.
Exactly.
Oh, by the way, Kaiser White's going to play 101% of the snaps this year in Arizona. He's never coming off the field. If Nick Rollis says his way, he's never coming off the field. Mark that down. He's a fine
WVU grad, that Kaiser White, and he will anchor that defense. Hey, I think that Kobe Dean. It's a two-headed sword, Jody. I think I agree that it would be nice to see him, but I think we're in a world now where they see enough doing these things here and behind the scenes, and they don't want to get him hurt because I think they have a lot of questions. Zach Cunningham, I would imagine, is ahead of Miles Jack, and Morrow might be ahead of
plays, baby. Zach Cunningham,
right? And Morrow may still be holding off both of them at this point. We'll see.
Mike.
I didn't get much from that position Thursday night. I'll tell you that. I didn't get much from that Thursday night. That was my
Thursday night. And I'm telling you, not getting anything on Thursday night because they're all going to sit because you don't want to get them hurt.
I thought Morrow played well, to be fair, in Baltimore. But what does it mean? It doesn't mean much. Zach Cunningham played well in the joint practices. He's very long. He got his hand on the football twice that ended up with Blankenship interceptions. That's the kind of stuff that gets noticed. So I think he might be making some ground.
And even though he's wearing his Syracuse T-shirt, Mike Gill.
Number 5 will always love you guys. Number 5 will always love you, Syracuse.
Gill's still a WVU homer, getting the love out there for Kaiser White. Mike, have a good week, brother. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks, pal.
Thanks,
all right, everybody. See ya.
Mike Gill here with us on Birds 365, doing it via his phone because his computer went down. And I was going to ask him, but I wanted to get as much football. What the hell was Thankful over his shoulder? Was that part of his phone feed, or was that?
No, that was hanging up. That's that's the girlfriend. Mike's girlfriend probably set that up. Okay. I got stuff up in my house. I have no idea why it's
up. It says Thankful. You've got Thankful written on a wall in your house?
I don't have Thankful. That was a little Thankful hanging sign. My point is my wife puts up stuff that I don't know why it's up, but it's up.
If John showed us we weren't seeing the Oceans background, you'd see "Get off the couch." That's what it says in McMullen's house. That's what his wife puts up.
Actually, my wife wants me off the couch until I'm off the couch. Then she wants me back because when I'm out, she wants me out of the house until I leave the house. Then she wants me back immediately.
Yeah, go figure that one out. He's McMullen. I'm McDonald. You got Birds 365. Come back. I will tell John McMullen why. Last night, yours truly screamed Eagles at my TV. There was a very specific reason why I screamed Eagles at my TV. I'll explain when we come back here on Birds 365.